The Cavs are looking for 12 straight wins and to be the first team to clinch the postseason. And welcome into SportsCenter officially. Hi, I'm over here. PTI is actually going to come back in just a little bit and explain to us why they think the public is not giving those very Cavs the respect they deserve. They'll have a Rodney Dangerfield moment. But first, we kick it off with a developing story in the NFL. Adam Schefter reports Seahawks Pro Bowl receiver DK Metcalf requesting a trade after 2 weeks of discussions with the team. He's averaged over 1,000 receiving yards in his 6 seasons in Seattle. The Seahawks already releasing Tyler Lockett, so that receiver room looking a little bit bare. For much more on this, let's bring in our NFL insider Dan Graziano and our 2-time Super Bowl champ Booger McFarland. I'll start with you, Dan. What are you hearing about which teams could be in the mix to trade for Metcalf?
Yeah, Elle, I feel like it's the same teams over the past year that have been looking for number one receivers. Remember, like when Brandon Ayuk was available last summer. Think about the Patriots. Think about the Steelers, the Broncos, the Ravens. DK Metcalf is a number one wide receiver who's 27 years old. He is different from the other wide receivers that are going to be on this market. He's younger than guys like Devontae Adams and Tyler Lockett and Christian Kirk. You know, he's bigger and stronger than really anyone that plays the wide receiver position in the history of the world. So he's going to have some appeal to teams that are looking for that anchor wide receiver for their wide receiver room, as opposed to, like, you know, the teams that are looking for a 2 or a 3 to complement the superstar.
I completely agree with you, Dan. And when you think about anchor wide receivers, you're talking about number one guys, and I like to pair them with young quarterbacks. How about Jordan Love with DK Metcalf in Green Bay? How about Michael Penix Jr. with DK Metcalf in Atlanta? I think wherever he goes, he's going to be looking for a new contract. I would love to pair him with a young quarterback. And to me, that's the best way you go about doing this. Just the way they did with A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. You give your young quarterback a veteran wide receiver, somebody to throw the ball to, a bona fide number one. Green Bay and Atlanta, Dan, are the first 2 teams come to mind. I would love to see that fit.
Yeah, and you talk about a team like Atlanta that has some skill position players maybe they could send back towards Seattle to make that trade happen as well. Metcalf, by the way, coming off of a 66-catch, 992-yard, 5-touchdown season, missed 2 games with a knee injury. The Cowboys also, though, have some decisions they need to make, and they're getting in position. Todd Archer reports they restructured quarterback Dak Prescott's contract, created over $36 million in cap space. He was due to carry the biggest cap hit in the league at $89 million. The move comes after Dallas also restructured CeeDee Lamb's contract. In fact, if you take a look at the last couple of days, the boys have created about $56.6 million in cap room. Dallas had already inked star defensive tackle Osa Odigizua to a 4-year, $80 million deal, but still had decisions to make at running back and in both trenches. So, Dan, what areas are the Cowboys hoping they can address with this newfound cap space?
Yeah, the next free agent of their own that they're interested in trying to bring back is cornerback Jordan Lewis. And whether they bring him back or not, they're going to continue to look for upgrades and additions in their secondary on defense. This cap space was always going to be there. The Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb deals were built to be reconstructed this way in the second year. So they'll use the cap space to fortify on defense. They'll look to upgrade on the defensive line alongside Micah Parsons and also Odigizua, especially if they don't bring back DeMarcus Lawrence. And then on offense, they're looking for a number 2 wide receiver behind CeeDee Lamb and a dynamic playmaker, ideally at running back, to pair with Rico Dowdle, who they'd like to bring back. He was a good performer for them late in the year last year. So Dallas' plan doesn't really change because all of a sudden they found cap space. They always knew it was going to be there. Those are the areas they're looking to attack.
So let's add this up, Dan. They need a right guard because Zach Martin has retired. They need a running back because the running game was terrible. They need a secondary wide receiver, somebody to help CeeDee Lamb out. Defensive tackle, they need somebody to get bigger because Mozzie Smith has been a disappointment. Oh, by the way, DeMario Overshown is coming off a bad knee injury, so they need a linebacker. Stop me when I run out of time here because they need a bunch of stuff. Overall, they need a talent upgrade so they can continue to free up money. But when are they going to free up and get some more talent? Dallas has to become a way more talented team.
You're right, though, but a lot of that, to Dan's point, does start with their running back. I mean, Rico Dowdle aside, they were 30th in the NFL in yards per rush attempt. They had 6 rushing scores last year, dead last in the league. That might be a good place to start, I'm just saying, along that laundry list of other things. Booger McFarland, Dan Graziano standing by. They'll be back in just a little bit, but we shift gears. As we mentioned off the top of the show, it's the NBA night, and we are getting ready. Do give the Cavs a 36% chance to hoist the Larry O'Brien Trophy, which is just behind the Western Conference leading Thunder and well ahead of the reigning champion Celtics. Are we smelling some disrespect? Mike and Tony have more on our PTI bonus topic.
All right, Wilbon, why don't the Cavaliers get respect from the public as title contenders?
Interesting and legit question, Tony. I mean, because they play in Cleveland. And I know we're a ways away from the 1980s and even 90s when Cleveland used to be the butt of so many jokes nationally. It goes back to a long time, back to 1969 when the river caught fire. And then so many things happened to Cleveland and in Cleveland. And then people helped restore, give Cleveland sort of a new reputation. LeBron James, Jim Thome, Bernie Kosar. I mean, sports stars helped change Cleveland, and they won to an extent, even if everybody didn't win everything. LeBron certainly did. So, but Cleveland has suffered with this. And now you get a team that has no real stars. Donovan Mitchell is a star player, but it's not a glamorous market, and free agents don't flock there, and they don't talk about having a big three. But that team is deep and talented and balanced and well-coached. And I think they're a real threat to win the whole thing, whether people know who's in Cleveland or not. I know who's there.
Yeah, so let's go back to those names you just mentioned, LeBron James, Jim Thome, and Bernie Kosar. The last star in Cleveland in any sport was LeBron when he helped win a championship there, and then he went on his way. They have not had a star since then. I'm not saying they don't have good players. They don't have the star attraction.
Right.
We sit on this show, and though we don't talk about the Cowboys every day, we talk about the Lakers every day. We talk about the Warriors every day. We talk about the Celtics every day. Why do we talk about these teams? Because they're not only good or have been good, but because they have great stars. Cleveland does not have that. You have bemoaned this on this show that we should talk about Oklahoma City more because they do have a great star, but nobody knows about the team. And the NBA doesn't promote these teams like Oklahoma City and like Cleveland. They're going to have to win it on their own. And they've got the best record in the league and they can win it, but this group of players, to be fair, has only won one playoff series. I mean, they haven't knocked on the door hard and burst through the door. They haven't done that yet.
I will give you a bit of credit in closing.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Now, I'll give you a bit of credit. The other day when we were talking about MVPs, you mentioned actually Donovan Mitchell and said, wait a minute, why aren't Garland and Mitchell getting votes? I'll give you credit because I think you're the only person on the network that has mentioned those guys as they lead a team to the best record in the league. So golf clap for you, Mr. Kornheiser.
Everybody else on the network is wondering if Dak will still get his money, and I was able to focus on something else.
That's a good place to get out. We're done. Yeah. I love Donovan Mitchell. Back to you.
Don't worry, Tony.
I think he's going to come back and have a – I mean, I know he's 42 or 41.
Are you going to say MVP?
No, I think he's going to have a big year this year, and I hope it's in our town.
Well, be intentional about what you want, Max Crosby. Dan Graziano, Booger McFarland are back with us. Gardner Minshew is expected to be released by the Raiders. A few veteran quarterbacks are on the open market. So, Dan, what is their priority under center, that being Vegas?
Well, their priority under center is to find the long-term solution at quarterback, ideally in the draft. But where they're picking, and given the quarterbacks in this year's draft, that may not be possible this year. So if you're the Raiders, I do think you're looking at that veteran quarterback market. And I think, you look first to Minnesota. If Sam Darnold, if they let him out of the building there, maybe he's a guy you look at. He's 27. He could be something more than a one-year stopgap if he plays the way he played last year. You look at an Aaron Rodgers, who probably at this point is just a one-year stopgap. Maybe you draft a guy in the middle or later rounds and develop him. And then, they have Russell Wilson, who knows the new Raiders head coach, Pete Carroll, from their time together in Seattle, which might not have always been super rosy, but my understanding is the two of them have patched things up, and that's a possibility for the Raiders as well. So they'll look everywhere. Ideally, they would get one of these top two guys in the draft, but picking where they're picking, that's no certainty, and they're probably going to be in this veteran quarterback market.
Yeah, they definitely need to be in the veteran quarterback market because the two guys they had last year weren't very good. How about this, Dan? Let's have some fun. How about giving them Jameis Winston? All right, Jameis is a guy who was a former number one overall pick. You could bring him in there. He is a guy who could come in and man your offense, a pocket quarterback. He could command the offense to allow your rookie quarterback that you're going to draft with the 6th pick overall. You ready for this one? Ding, ding, ding. How about they get Shedeur Sanders? We all know how fond Tom Brady is of Shedeur Sanders. So now you have Jameis Winston, the pocket quarterback. You get Shedeur Sanders, the pocket quarterback. He can mentor him, although I hope he doesn't teach him how to throw 30 picks, but that's for another day. And now you have your succession plan. And more importantly, there won't be any animosity because Jameis comes in knowing that he is just a placeholder until Shedeur Sanders gets ready. I think that would be the perfect plan for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, you certainly don't want him to learn about the throwing the ball away part from Jameis, but Sanders, much like Jameis, can air it out. 64 touchdowns in 2 years at Colorado, making him the Buffalo's all-time leader in passing touchdowns. So the Raiders have that 6th pick in the draft. They're looking for their quarterback. The Bears already have theirs, right? It's Caleb Williams. But he was sacked a league-high 68 times last season. So today, they acquired Chiefs for all-pro guard Joe Thuney for a 4th-round pick. Yesterday, they made a trade with the Rams for guard Jonah Jackson, and new coach Ben Johnson concentrating very clearly on the trenches. So Chicago makes some moves to help their quarterback. But Dan, how are these additions going to help Williams in his sophomore year?
Well, ideally, they'll knock that sack number down from 68, and he won't get hit quite as much as he was this year. I mean, that's kind of been the priority for Chicago heading into this offseason. Upgrade the offensive line, upgrade the pass protection. Ben Johnson, their new head coach, you mentioned he comes from Detroit, where their success was really rooted in one of the best offensive lines in the league for the last couple of years. So he knows firsthand the importance of that. Adding these guys will help protect Caleb Williams. It will help them build a more effective running game, which in turn will further help protect Caleb Williams and just really lay the foundation for what Ben Johnson hopes can be an explosive offense sooner rather than later.
And there's that word again, Graz, hope, because right now I think that's all they have in Kansas City is they can hope that they can figure out how to block for Patrick Mahomes. Like the only time he's lost the Super Bowl, they couldn't protect him. And so here's what they do. They take the left guard, move him to left tackle, and that didn't work. And so now we're going to trade the left guard. And so now you need a left tackle, you need a left guard, and the right tackle wasn't very good. So out of your 5 offensive line spots, you have 2, in the words of Spades, you have 2 for sures. They got a lot of maybes on that offensive line. I'm quite not sure what Brett Veach is doing. I know Patrick Mahomes probably feels the same way. At some point, they're going to have to protect Patrick Mahomes because if he's protected, he's shown you he's the best player in football.
You're absolutely right. Protect the franchise. He was sacked a career-high 36 times last season, unable to get it done. Fellas, thank you for joining SportsCenter. You're out of here. You're good. Appreciate you. But that's only because we're getting ready for NBA action. Darius Garland, always ready for the action. Shooting a career best 48% from the field, 42% from deep. The 2-time All-Star scored 23 in his lone meeting against the Heat a little earlier this season. In fact, to break it all down, we get it to Malika Andrews and the Countdown crew.
Ooh, Elle, we got a treat today. I get a treat because I'm sitting next to 2 of the best, Sinead Gumake, Kendrick Perkins, and we have 2 of the best teams on our air tonight.
I'm not going to start with y'all. This is
You're the one who started it. You had it the desk.
Let's start with this, fam. There's only been 2 times in NBA history, including this season, that multiple teams have won 50 of their first 61 games. We have that this year with the Cavaliers and the Thunder. Their records are 51-10,